I woke to the faintest creak. At first, I thought it was the wind rattling the old cabin, the kind that slips through cracks in the walls and whispers in corners. But something felt off. The door to my bedroom, which I was certain I had shut before going to bed, now hung slightly ajar. It swayed slowly, like it was breathing. My heart started hammering before I even moved, and for a moment, I told myself it was nothing. The house settling, gravity, something normal. Then came the scratching. Slow, patient, fingernails dragging against wood. Not enough to break the silence, but enough to make every hair on my arms stand on end. I whispered, "Hello." The room swallowed my voice, returning nothing but its own heavy, suffocating quiet. I sat frozen, staring at the door as a chill crawled up my spine. And then I heard it. A low groan, almost human, almost deliberate. Not angry, not pleading. Just there, waiting. I reached for the handle, fingers trembling. The instant I touched it, the door slammed shut with a violence that rattled the whole room. I stumbled back, heart in my throat, as a sinking realization hit me. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the house. Something else was inside, and it didn't want me to leave my bed. The first thing I noticed when I finally dragged myself out of bed the next morning was how quiet the cabin felt. Too quiet. Even the wind seemed hesitant to enter, holding its breath outside the thin wooden walls. Sunlight leaked through the cracks in the curtains, painting long, uneven lines across the floorboards, but it did nothing to warm the unease that had settled in my chest. I was alone, or at least I thought I was alone. The previous night's door incident clung to my mind like a shadow, small and persistent, growing heavier every time I blinked. I kept telling myself it had to be the wind or some trick of the old house settling. That was what I wanted to believe. I stepped into the kitchen. The air smelled faintly of mildew and wood smoke, the remnants of a fire someone had lit days before. My hands shook as I filled the kettle with water. Every creak in the floorboards, every whisper of movement outside the window made me jump. My apartment back in town had felt like a cage, yes, but at least it made sense. Here, every sound was a question I couldn't answer, and then I noticed it. The door. Not my bedroom door, but the old pantry door at the far end of the kitchen. It was slightly ajar, exactly like the bedroom door had been. My stomach dropped. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't even come close to it. I froze. My eyes darted around the room. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe a draft had caught it. I told myself that over and over, a mantra I could barely believe. But then I heard it. A whisper. Low, almost underneath the hum of the wind outside, but unmistakable. "Don't!" My heart seized. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair. The sound echoed through the small cabin. Silence pressed down again, heavier this time, as if waiting for me to move. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to tell myself it was the wind, a trick of memory or nerves. But the voice was too deliberate, too alive. I stepped toward the door, my hand hovering above the handle. The closer I got, the colder the air became. The kitchen, which had felt merely uncomfortable moments ago, now seemed alien, each shadow stretching, bending unnaturally. I could swear I saw movement in the corner of my eye, a shape quick and dark, vanishing the instant I turned my head. I whispered, more to myself than to anyone else. "Who's there?" No answer, only the soft, deliberate creak of the pantry door swinging back and forth. I couldn't stop staring at it. Something was inside, I just didn't know what. My mind screamed to leave, to get the hell out of this cabin before it got worse, but my legs refused. Every instinct in me pulled toward the door, a fascination I couldn't fight. Something in me wanted to know. The scratching started again, soft but insistent, as if whatever waited inside the pantry was testing me, gauging my fear. My chest tightened, a cold knot forming in my stomach. I felt like I was drowning in my own terror, each heartbeat echoing in my ears. And then I remembered the bedroom door last night, the way it had moved on its own. The groan, the almost human sound. My mind wouldn't let me ignore it. I whispered aloud this time, shaking. "It's not just a door." Silence, then a sudden sharp click. The pantry door swung open wider than it should have, revealing darkness so deep it seemed to pull the light from the room. I froze, my fingers grazing the counter edge for support. There was nothing there, at least nothing I could see. But the smell hit me before my eyes confirmed it. Something rotten, something old, something that didn't belong. A memory flashed. The caretaker from the last time I visited the cabin, a thin, hunched man with skin like cracked parchment, had muttered under his breath, "Doors are doors for a reason. They're not yours to open, never yours to leave closed." I had laughed then, dismissed it as local superstition, the kind of Appalachian tale that made you shiver but meant nothing. Now standing here with the pantry door swinging in a silent rhythm and the smell of decay filling my lungs, I realized it had been a warning. Not a joke, I wanted to leave. I wanted to run out into the sunlight, far from this cabin and its doors that had a mind of their own. But something stopped me. A sense of inevitability, a pull I didn't understand, rooted me to the spot. The cabin didn't want me to leave, just as it hadn't let the door stay closed, and I understood, in a way that made my skin crawl, that the night wasn't over. It had only just begun. The morning after the pantry door incident, I couldn't shake the feeling that the cabin itself had eyes. I moved through the rooms cautiously, each creak of the floorboards echoing like a warning. The light streaming through the cracked windows seemed too weak, too thin to hold back the shadows that clung to every corner. I thought I saw them move, just the faintest shifts, like smoke curling at the edges of the walls. But whenever I turned, there was nothing. I spent hours walking through the cabin, inspecting the doors. Bedroom, bathroom, pantry, the main entrance, all of them slightly off. Some didn't latch properly, others swung a fraction too far, and all of them felt wrong. The sensation was subtle at first, like when you touch ice water, a slight jolt, a chill that crawls through your veins. But it grew, persistent and gnawing, a weight pressing against my chest. By midday, I was pacing the main room, trying to rationalize. I told myself it was the house settling. Old cabins groan, wood expands, gravity shifts, reasonable explanations for everything. And yet, a part of me, the part that remembered the groan of the bedroom door, the whisper of the pantry, refused to be reassured. I started keeping a journal, scribbling down every movement, every noise, every subtle shift in the air. The scratching, the whispers, the doors opening slightly by themselves, all of it. I had to keep track, to prove to myself it wasn't madness. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the Appalachian ridges, I heard it again. Not a whisper this time, but a voice, soft and broken, coming from the hallway outside my bedroom. "Don't leave." I froze. My hands clenched the pen so tightly the paper buckled. I wanted to run, but the word "don't" carried a weight, a purpose. It wasn't angry. It wasn't pleading. It was warning. I remembered the caretaker from years ago, the man with the cracked skin and hollow eyes who had muttered, "Doors aren't yours to open, never yours to leave closed." I had laughed, calling it superstition, the kind of story that made rural kids shiver but meant nothing. Now I understood. Every door, every creak, every whisper had been a sign, a warning I had ignored. I stepped into the hallway slowly, as if walking through molasses. Each door I passed seemed to react to me. The bedroom door creaked slightly, the pantry door swung wider, and the bathroom door rattled in its frame. The house felt alive, as though it knew I was testing it, probing its boundaries. By nightfall, the cabin had fully changed. Shadows moved unnaturally, coiling around the corners of rooms. The air thickened, carrying the faint metallic scent of decay. The floorboards under my feet no longer sounded right. Some emitted hollow, almost human-like groans. Others vibrated faintly, as if something below was moving. And the doors refused to stay closed. Every time I shut one, it would slowly swing back, inch by inch, like a breathing thing. I tried blocking them with furniture, wedging chairs, anything to keep them shut. It worked for a while, but eventually, the door would push past the obstacle. Something was stronger, smarter. Something wanted access. I started to question my own mind. Maybe it was exhaustion, paranoia. But then I noticed the small things. Objects moving slightly out of place. A chair not where I'd left it. A book face down on the floor. A cup that hadn't been touched, now half full with cold liquid. A knock came at the main door late one night. Sharp, deliberate echoing in the silent cabin. I froze, convinced I was imagining it. Then again, and again. Each knock followed a pause, calculated as if someone or something was testing my resolve. I whispered, trembling, "Who's there?" Silence. I wanted to laugh it off, but my chest tightened. My fingers itched to reach for a weapon, anything. anything to protect myself. But I knew in that moment it wouldn't matter. The cabin, the doors, whatever was inside, it didn't care. I was trapped in a system I couldn't fight. I started seeing shapes. At first, I convinced myself it was shadows, tricks of the low light. But they became more distinct, a dark figure lingering near the pantry, just beyond my vision. Sometimes I thought I heard breathing when no one could be there. My reflection in the mirror would shift subtly, a tilt of the head that I hadn't made, a flicker of shadow across the eyes. Voices began to whisper from the walls. Low, murmuring fragments I could barely make out. At times, it sounded like a family arguing, voices old and worn. At others, children laughing, then screaming, abruptly cut off. Every sound made me jump, my pulse racing. I felt a presence following me, always just out of reach, peering around corners, watching my every move. Neighbors came occasionally, dropping by to check on the cabin, bringing groceries or well-meaning advice. Each visit was unnerving. Their eyes darted nervously to the doors as if they too sensed the wrongness. One neighbor, an older woman with wiry gray hair, paused in the hallway, her gaze fixed on the pantry. "You shouldn't be here after dark," she said, voice trembling. It doesn't like it." "Doesn't like what?" I asked, though I already knew. She shook her head. "It's alive, or something like it. Don't try to fight it, just don't." I thanked her, but I didn't listen. I was too curious, too terrified to turn away. The fear had a pull, like a moth circling the flame. Over the next few days, the scratching intensified. No longer soft, it became insistent, scratching at all the doors, sometimes at the floorboards themselves. The whispers grew clearer. They began calling my name. At first, I tried to ignore them, thinking exhaustion or stress, but the calls became impossible to dismiss. They were deliberate, personal. One night, I woke to the bedroom door standing wide open. My bed had shifted slightly, as if something had brushed against it. The shadows in the room seemed thicker, darker, pooling unnaturally near the corners. I could feel eyes on me, the weight of a presence pressing down. I whispered, "I know you're there." The reply came from the darkness, a low, guttural murmur that sounded almost like laughter, almost like speech. "You can't leave." "Not yet." I stumbled back, knocking over a lamp. Its light flickered and died. The room plunged into darkness. My chest tightened. Every nerve screamed at me. I knew without doubt that whatever was in the cabin wasn't human, wasn't benign. It was aware of me, watching, waiting, and learning. I began recording events, documenting every creak, every whisper, every movement. But even that didn't feel safe. Sometimes the recordings would play back on their own, the volume low, whispering words I hadn't spoken. Names, warnings, fragments of sentences, always ending with the same terrifying refrain. "Don't leave." Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the doors swinging open, heard the groaning, smelled the decay. Shadows coiled around my limbs, pulling me into the corners. I started talking to myself just to keep sane, muttering about furniture, locks, anything to ground myself in reality. But even my words felt hollow, swallowed by the presence that dominated the cabin. And then came the first real warning. A scream, sharp and horrifying, echoing from the pantry late one night. It wasn't human, at least not entirely, and it froze me in place. I didn't move for what felt like hours, staring at the dark space, knowing something was behind it, waiting, feeding on my fear. I realized then, with a sickening clarity, that the cabin itself, the doors, the shadows, the whispers, had become a predator. And I was the prey. I couldn't trust my eyes. I couldn't trust my ears. I couldn't trust the floor beneath my feet. I began to wonder if I was losing my mind, or maybe I had already lost it. Every night I would wake to doors ajar, shadows stretching, whispers circling, and a presence that seemed to inch closer. And every morning I would rise, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. But the smell of decay, the moved furniture, the low groaning, those were real. Those were undeniable. By the time I reached the 7th night, I was certain of one thing: the doors would never stay closed. Whatever lived in the cabin, whatever had chosen this place as its domain, would not let me rest. It was patient, it was deliberate, and it was hungry. I realized as the scratching intensified and the whispers coiled around my mind that the cabin had rules. I didn't understand them. I didn't want to. All I knew was that breaking them, even unknowingly, had consequences. And the doors were just the beginning. The seventh night bled into the eighth, and sleep had long since abandoned me. My body ached, my eyes were raw, and every sound made me flinch. I no longer moved through the cabin cautiously. I moved with dread, as if every step might provoke something terrible. The doors had grown bold, no longer subtle, no longer hesitant. They slammed, creaked, swung wide on their own. Sometimes I woke to them all standing open, as if the house were inhaling, preparing to exhale something dark. I had tried barricading them. Chairs, tables, even the mattress shoved against the pantry door. It didn't matter. In the early hours, I would wake to see the furniture shifted, the mattress half off the floor, the door open just enough to let shadows spill into the room. Whatever was in this cabin was stronger, smarter, more deliberate than anything I could comprehend. And that night, I understood its purpose. It began around midnight, a whispering that circled my ears like smoke. I couldn't tell where it came from. The walls, the floors, even the air itself seemed alive. Leave. Then louder, more urgent, you can't leave. I spun in place, breath ragged, searching for the source. The shadows seemed to bend toward me, coiling, twisting, growing thicker. They moved like hands, reaching, stretching. The pantry door slowly creaked open, wider than I had ever dared to leave it. From its dark depths came a smell, fetid and metallic, like rusted iron and rot. I tried to step back, but the floorboards betrayed me. They groaned underfoot, sending echoes that I knew would attract it. The shadows moved faster, condensing, becoming denser. I could see forms now, human-shaped but wrong, stretched and twisted. Their faces featureless in the black, limbs bending at impossible angles. I whispered, "What do you want from me?" No answer, only a cold, pressing silence that seemed to squeeze my lungs. Then, from all directions at once, came a cacophony, scratching, knocking, low groans and whispers. Names I didn't know, words I couldn't understand, all mixed together, circling me. The walls themselves seemed to pulse, closing in. The bedroom door slammed with a force that made the glass rattle. I stumbled backward, tripping over the fallen mattress, and hit the floor. Shadows surged across me, cold and sharp, brushing against my skin like ice and fire at once. My vision swam. My heart thundered. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out, and then I heard a voice, closer now, almost behind me. "It's yours." "It's always been yours." I didn't know what it meant. I couldn't think. All I knew was terror, raw and unrelenting. I scrambled to my feet, trying to reach the main door, the one that led outside, thinking maybe the sunlight could save me, maybe I could escape this nightmare. But it wasn't the doors anymore. It was everything. The walls pulsed. The shadows formed shapes, twisted figures that mirrored my own, whispering, mocking, calling my name. The cabin had become a living trap, its very structure hostile, bending reality around me. I turned to the pantry door, desperate for some answer, some confrontation. It was wide open, shadows spilling out in thick waves, and from the darkness a figure emerged. Tall, impossibly thin, limbs bending in directions they shouldn't. Its face was hidden, but I felt its eyes on me, piercing, calculating. I backed away, tripping over furniture, my hands reaching for anything, the kettle, a chair leg, anything, but it didn't matter. The figure moved faster than I could comprehend, coiling around the room, passing through walls and doors as though they didn't exist. "It's time," it whispered. I screamed. My voice bounced off the walls, swallowed by the dark. I tried to run, but the cabin was no longer a place I could navigate. Hallways stretched, doors led to rooms that shouldn't exist. The floor shifted beneath me, and for a moment, I thought I would fall endlessly into blackness. The figure was everywhere now. Shadows stretched from it, reaching, brushing, pulling at my clothes, my hair, my skin. And then, from the kitchen, I heard a low, guttural sound, the pantry door slamming, then opening, revealing more of those faceless figures, each more grotesque than the last. I stumbled backward, my body slamming into the wall. The whispers grew louder, forming words now, sentences. "You opened it. You let it in. It's yours now. You can't leave." I felt my mind fraying. The fear was not external anymore. It had moved inside me. Every thought was a scream, every blink a shadow, every heartbeat the sound of approaching doom. I tried to speak, tried to fight, but my voice cracked. "Leave me. Go away." The figure laughed. Not a human laugh, but a sound that seemed to reverberate inside my skull. "No. You invited it?" I fell to the floor, pressing my hands over my ears, but the sound didn't stop. The whispers, the scratching, the laughter. It was in me now, in my mind, and outside. And then I realized with horror, the doors weren't moving on their own. I was moving them. Every fear, every thought, every hesitation I had poured into the cabin had given it life, had fed it. The pantry door swung wide again, and the smell of rot and iron hit me full force. I vomited, gagging as the shadows surged, wrapping around my limbs. I could feel their cold fingers, their pressure on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. I couldn't think. And then it spoke clear as day right in my mind. Forever. Yours. The lights flickered. For a moment there was silence. A stillness so absolute it felt like death itself had paused to watch. And then one final terrifying whisper. Close it. If you can... I lunged for the pantry door. My fingers gripped the handle. Every ounce of strength, every shred of willpower I threw at it. It resisted, swinging back against me, heavier than metal, like the weight of the entire cabin pressed into its frame. My muscles burned. My skin felt as if it were tearing. But I pushed, I pulled. Inch by agonizing inch, I forced the door shut. For a moment, everything stopped. The shadows froze. The whispers paused. The cabin was quiet, eerily quiet, as though holding its breath. I sank to the floor, trembling, crying, my body shaking uncontrollably. But the victory was hollow. The other doors creaked. The shadows lingered in corners. I could still hear faint scratching, soft whispers from deep within the walls. I had won nothing. I had only delayed the inevitable. And then I realized the cabin didn't need doors to trap me. It had already taken something, a piece of my mind, a shard of my soul. And with it, it had made me a part of its darkness. I would never leave. Not really. I collapsed against the wall, staring at the pantry door, knowing that no matter what I did, it would never stay closed. Not permanently, not completely. And in that realization, a true soul-deep terror gripped me. The shadows shifted again. The whispers returned, soft, insistent, promising the same thing I had known all along. Forever. Yours, I screamed, knowing I could not escape, knowing I would never escape. The doors, the shadows, the whispers. They had won. And in that moment, I understood the truth. There is no victory against some things. Only surrender. Morning came, though I'm not sure I saw it. Light filtered through the cracks in the cabin, weak and gray, as if hesitant to enter. The air was still, almost peaceful, but I knew better. Silence in this place was never safe. It was only a pause, a breath before the next horror. I sat on the floor, knees drawn to my chest, staring at the pantry door. It was shut, quiet, ordinary, and yet I couldn't trust it. Every instinct, every fiber of my being told me it was only pretending. That behind it, in that pitch-black void, whatever had claimed this cabin was still waiting, patient and deliberate. I hadn't slept. Not truly. My mind refused. Even when I closed my eyes, shadows lingered in the corners of my vision. The whispers never ceased completely. Sometimes, just beneath the threshold of hearing, I could catch fragments, echoes of laughter, words I didn't understand, the faintest calls of my own name. I tried to stand. My body betrayed me. Every muscle ached, every limb trembled. I stumbled to the kitchen, where the kettle I had used for days sat untouched. The smell of decay still lingered faintly, a reminder of what had transpired here. I wanted to leave, to run as far as possible, to bury this experience beneath miles of earth and walls of concrete. But my legs froze, because I knew the cabin didn't let people go. Not truly. Not ever. I had tried to fight. Tried to push the pantry door closed, to resist the shadows, to assert my reality over theirs. It had worked temporarily, but at a cost. Something had followed me back from that darkness. Something had attached itself to me, a piece of the rot, a shard of the cabin's will. I could feel it, faint at first, like a whisper inside my chest, moving with my heartbeat. Then, as the hours passed, stronger. A presence that never left, that lingered in the periphery of my senses. I was not free. I was tethered. The cabin had claimed me as surely as it had claimed the doors, the walls, the shadows. Days passed, though time felt meaningless. Each one bled into the next, the sun rising and setting without notice. I left the cabin once, a desperate attempt to prove to myself I could escape. The world outside seemed bright, normal, mundane. Birds sang. Wind moved through trees. People passed in cars, oblivious. And yet, I could feel the pull, the tug toward that place. My legs, my heart, my mind, all resisted for only a moment before my steps carried me back. Back to the doors, back to the shadows, back to the whispers the neighbors noticed. They asked questions. "You look hollow," one said, her voice tight with worry. "You don't seem like yourself." I smiled weakly. "I'm fine," I said. But I wasn't, not anymore. Every night I dreamt of doors swinging open, of shadows coiling around me, of faceless figures whispering in the dark. Every day I felt their presence in the corners of my vision, in the faint movement of air, in the pressure on my chest that never left. I tried to tell someone, anyone. My voice sounded strange, distant, as if it didn't belong to me. I described the cabin, the doors, the pantry, the shadows. I mentioned the whispers, the voices calling my name, the smell of decay, the suffocating presence. People nodded politely. They exchanged glances. Some offered sympathy. Others avoided my eyes. I understood why. I would have avoided me too, because it sounds insane. It is insane. I went back to the cabin one last time, a silent, resigned walk. I didn't need to check the doors. I didn't need to barricade the pantry. I knew what awaited. The house, the shadows, the whispers. They had waited for me. And I had waited for them. The pantry door creaked open on its own as I approached. I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. I simply stared, knowing the darkness beyond would meet me halfway. The shadows moved lazily, as if acknowledging my arrival, stretching and folding into themselves. The whispers curled around my ears, soft, almost gentle this time. "Welcome back." "We've missed you," I nodded. Not out of understanding, not out of joy, but because I had no other choice. I understood then that resistance was meaningless. The cabin didn't just exist in the woods. It existed wherever I was, wherever my mind reached, wherever fear and memory lingered. I couldn't leave. I couldn't escape. Time became irrelevant. Days, nights, sunlight, moonlight, all blended into one long, eternal presence. The shadows followed me, even outside the cabin, curling at the edges of reality. Every door I passed, every room I entered, seemed to quiver slightly, as if acknowledging my connection to the darkness. I learned to move quietly, cautiously, to speak sparingly, lest the whispers grow louder, to sleep with one eye open, though sleep was always fragmented, haunted by creaking doors, groaning shadows, and voices that called my name. And sometimes, when the world was still, I would hear it. A single, deliberate creak in the distance, a whispering word, a door moving of its own accord. I would turn, heart hammering, only to see nothing. Yet I knew better. I had learned that looking wasn't the point. Seeing wasn't the point. The cabin was always there, in the shadows, in the whispers, in the pause between breaths. I tried to forget. Tried to convince myself it was over, that I had survived, that I could reclaim some fragment of my life. But the cabin doesn't release what it wants. The doors don't stay closed. The shadows don't leave. And the whispers never stop. Sometimes when I'm alone, I swear I hear the pantry door creak open, slowly, deliberately. And I know, even without looking, that it's waiting. Waiting for the moment I let my guard down. Waiting for the moment I forget. I understand now that fear is not just an emotion. Fear is presence. Fear is a living, breathing thing that moves with you, feeds with you, grows stronger the more you resist. The cabin taught me that. The doors taught me that. The darkness taught me that. And I learned to live with it. I live with it now. The shadows coil at the corners of my vision. The whispers curl through my thoughts. The doors, no matter where I go, always have a mind of their own. They move slightly, ever so slightly, as if to remind me, you are mine. You always were. I speak rarely. My words are measured. My movements are careful. And I never ever forget that some doors are not meant to be closed. Some doors are meant to watch you. Some doors are meant to stay open. Forever. Even now I can hear it. Soft, almost tender. Forever. Yours? I do not look. I do not speak. I simply wait. Because I know it will come. It always comes. And the doors? The doors will never stay closed.